We'll get you guys going.
How old are your kids, Jessica?
10, 9, 7, and 5.
Oh my God, 4?
Yeah.
I have an 11 and 8-year-old girls.
I have 2 boys, 2 girls.
Wow.
Welcome everybody joining us. We're going to get started here in just a second. It takes a few seconds for everybody to roll in, so hang tight and we'll get started. Everybody's staying warm and has water and power and all that good stuff. I know it's interesting these times, you know, we've handled COVID, so what's a snowstorm, right? All right, it is 12:31. So without further delay, let's get started. Thanks so much for joining us for our Lunch and Learn today, brought to you by the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce Executives. For those of you who don't know, I am Amy Cloud. I'm the Executive Director of KCCE. We host 2 to 3 of these Lunch and Learn webinars every month for professional development opportunities for our local chamber professionals across the state. We're so excited that you chose to join us today, especially great new opportunities. And we're excited to be partnering through the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. I'll let the folks on the panel explain how all this works. Joining us today is Jessica Moore. She is with our membership development team, and Joshua Seeberg. He is joining us from Hamburg, Germany. So we're excited that he is working after hours to be a part of this call, but I will let them introduce themselves once we get the program going. During this time, if you do have questions for our 2 panelists, please put them in the chat box. I will be the voice of the questions and be able to ask those to our panelists when we get to the Q&A part of the presentation. Also remember, as always, we are recording this Lunch and Learn webinar. You're welcome to share that webinar with your membership, your board, your ambassadors, whoever you think would be interested in this topic. I will send out a link if you send me an email, or next week it will be on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, Jess, I will let you get started.
Thanks, Amy. Hey guys, so happy to be with you today. Appreciate all of you with KCCE having us and letting us introduce you to Discover Kentucky and really talk about how we're going to work together to have you involved. So as Amy said, I am the Senior Manager of Membership Development with the Kentucky Chamber. So I spend a large majority of my time convening with businesses across the entire state and figuring out how we can serve as a resource to them and their organizations. So I am going to very quickly share screen. And then Joshua, I didn't know if you wanted to briefly introduce yourself or wait just a minute.
Oh, wait, go ahead.
All right. You guys see that?
All right, you're good. Perfect.
Okay, so just briefly, we wanted to introduce the purpose of the Discover Kentucky initiative. You know, in a world when the age of information is upon us, the value of meaningful connection and tailored guidance cannot be underestimated. Particularly as it relates to economic development. So the goals of the Discover Kentucky initiative include a couple of things. At first, we are facilitating introductions to Kentucky businesses and European businesses that have significant interest in the U.S. market. We'll dive a little more into that in just a few minutes. After that, we are fostering those relationships as they grow and, you know, helping these companies to maintain Kentucky as top priority and top of mind in their future expansion projects. And then we are providing continuity in said relationships despite changes in administration. So we really see this initiative as being something that continues and, you know, as it being a consistent project of ours for the future to come. So we're doing that regardless of administration. And from there, I am going to let Joshua take over and spend some time discussing their role in this initiative.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, friends of the Kentucky Chamber, for having me on. It is the evening here in Hamburg, Germany, but that's not a problem. This is a worthwhile endeavor. So I'm Joshua Seeberg. I'm the director of the European Representative Office for the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development. This office was set up actually 10 years ago. This is our 10th year anniversary this year, this summer. And we're going to be doing a couple things to celebrate that when it comes, so stay tuned. But this office was set up in the Steve Beshear administration to help with foreign direct investment attraction of European companies to the state of Kentucky. And so I took over this role about a year ago, actually. I came from the German-American Chamber of Commerce. First I was in Colorado, and then I was in the Chicago office. And well, I married a German, so we decided at some point that we wanted to come back to Germany with our children, and this position was actually open at the time, so it fit really well. So that was in January of 2020. I started this position about I think the 28th of January. And then we had a really great month of February. And then March wasn't so great. So, things turned around and are on their heads. And we typically go out to trade shows and conferences and select USA events, talking to companies in person, all around Europe. We're responsible for all of Europe. And that wasn't possible, of course. So we had to get creative and think about, well, how are we going to reach out to companies, not only in a pandemic and worldwide financial crisis, but also keeping in mind that, and it's very important to mention that Germany and Europe are bound to the restrictions of the so-called GDPR, this data protection laws, and making it very difficult to just cold call and cold email, company CEOs and decision makers. So what we did was we got together our lists and databases of companies that my colleagues and my predecessors had reached out to in the past several years, and people we had already contacted at some point in time, and sent them out an email that just basically said, hey, Kentucky is here for you if you are thinking about market entry or expansion. We know right now it's not the best time, but when it is the best time, or it could be now, please reach out to us and we're here to help. And we got a pretty good response. We sent this email to several hundred companies. And what we found, though, is that most of the companies who were contacting us back said, well, look, we're not ready to open up a big $30 million manufacturing facilities to create 200 jobs. We're looking at some very early stage steps, like we're looking for distribution support. We want to set up like a smaller presence of some sort. And I got to tell you, typically this office and offices like ours, I mean, there are several state representative offices in Europe, would turn them away and say, look, our mandate is to help with, actual development projects or investment projects. So that's great. We wish you luck. Come back to us in a couple of years when you're ready for that big investment, right? And they send them on their way. And I said, well, that would really be a shame to shoo them away and tell them to come back when they're ready to make that big investment and take those big steps. Is there anything we can do for them? And I went to my colleagues in Frankfurt with an O, not Frankfurt, Germany. We have nothing to do with Frankfurt, Germany, and said, look, is there any way, any resources, can we help them? And we really thought hard about, well, okay, we can generate some lists of similar companies in the state. We can, we can look through our Rolodex and make some kind of informal connections. And, we tried a couple of these things, and, we found ourselves really trying a couple different iterations. We tried to connect them with industry associations. We reached out to some other stakeholders, and nothing really stuck, So finally, long story short, we got connected with the Kentucky Chamber, and this turned out to be just a winning relationship. So the rest. We're going to be going through kind of the process of how this looks, and you have to see the step-by-step layout of what this means. Basically, the goal, as Jessica mentioned, is to get them into Kentucky introduce them to the business ecosystem, and keep them here for when they are ready to take those next steps, those bigger steps, right? Because that was the whole risk in the first place, is if we send them away, then they'll go and, you know, cozy up to someone else, another state who is willing to welcome them. So we want to bring them in, we want to keep them here, and when they're ready, then the cabinet can jump back in and offer its services. Because quite frankly, we're really just not equipped to help you know, companies that aren't ready for the big investment, because we're here to, you know, we do, you know, we're ready to offer incentives and help with site selection, that kind of thing. So here's the pipeline. It's like literally a pipeline. It all starts with our office and a vetting process. And what we're trying to do is make sure that these companies are, I guess you could say, serious about taking those next steps. We want to kind of weed out these companies that are really just, you know, someone was tasked with information gathering and they're just, you know, wanting to put a business case together to send up to their superiors. We want to make sure they really are looking for partners for a serious partnership, a serious, you know, market entry or something like that. So the way we do that is we, you know, of course, we get on a call with them and, you know, have an initial discussion about what their plans are, and then eventually we really need to talk to a decision maker, you know, someone at the C level, or you know, a business development executive or something like that, who can, you know, prove to us that this isn't just, you know, kind of a pie in the sky outreach sort of thing. They're really serious about coming over here. You know, we ask for something substantial on paper, you know, some sort of a business plan to make sure that, you know, again, that there's some substance behind it. And yeah, then we, you know, we confer with Jessica on this, and, you know, kind of explain their business case, and, you know, we reach an agreement that yes, I mean, this might be someone that we might be able to help. And then we make a formal introduction to Jessica. So between this company and Jessica and the chamber, to, you know, hand it over basically to the chamber. And at that point, I got to say, we kind of step back and as the cabinet, and let Jessica and the chamber take it from there. And at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Jessica and take a step back, but I'll be hanging out, and I'll be part of the Q&A and explain the rest of it. But let me just say at this point that we're really, really excited to not only have made this connection so that we can help these companies, but we're really thrilled with all the press that's been generated around it, and for your interest in zooming in today to find out more about it, and with the hopes that you can also have a role in this, and to help us support European companies coming into the Kentucky business ecosystem. So thank you, and I'll be talking later. And Jessica.
Awesome. Thanks, Joshua. So we have the introduction. Joshua's handing those over to us. We're talking about, you know, getting them involved, and then from there, we are holding those first discovery meetings. So we're setting some time aside to get in touch with those European companies and really dig into what their needs and wants are, what they see when they look at their expansion in Kentucky, and what they think a meaningful and successful partnership looks like. So from there, we are, and anytime you see these links, these are just progress checks along the way. And those might not be at those very moments, but I wanted to add those so that, you know, you could see that we were in pretty constant communication with Joshua and his team, and having check-ins along the way. After that, it's a lot of prep time. So we are using that time to gather information on Kentucky companies who could best benefit. We're digging into our vast membership pool and looking at companies who are in a state of their business that makes sense for a global presence or for expansion. And then we're really thinking about those potential partnerships and figuring out what those could look like and how we see those being successful. We're digging from every region, industry to industry, and really looking for the best suited partnerships. And then from there, we're scheduling those introductions at the convenience of both the Kentucky and European companies so that they can have their first meet and greet. Then we lead to the European and Kentucky company introductions. And these are really, like I said, they're first meet and greets. And this allows them some time to share their business models, brainstorm potential partnerships and what that could look like for them. So far, I'll give you a little example. We have a company who thought that there was a line of their products that would suit Kentucky best. And when we got into those initial conversations, we figured out that the line that they had planned wasn't exactly what they were really ultimately looking for. They were able to go back to the drawing board, think about another couple of products, and then bring those back to the Kentucky companies. So it really is a good session to put it all out on the table and look at how we could partner. And then it also gives them the opportunity to request additional information from each other. Like I said, those additional products, maybe what their timeline looks like, if we really see there being potential there, or if we need to foster that relationship more, or maybe if one of those companies that we originally introduced them to may not be the perfect fit, but what they may be is a convener for another conversation. So, it's just another way to work into a warm introduction that could be a good potential fit. From there, we are fostering growth. So I put that in the squiggle part of our pipeline because those are multiple conversations. And really, my job there is to introduce open-ended communication and conversation that will cultivate the potential for a stronger partnership going forward. So I'm keeping the communication alive. I'm keeping the communication warm. If we haven't heard back from someone in a little while, we're a gentle nudge to see where we are in the communication. So that could be, the timeline there is really at the pace of the companies, but I am just monitoring that as they go and adding input where we see fit and how it could best benefit those Kentucky companies. After that, we are circling back. So, there is never a time in which it is inconvenient to make another introduction. If we get all the way to step 6 and we think that, oh, there's another company in Eastern Kentucky that we could have introduced them to, then it's an okay time to say, hey, we thought of someone else. They've agreed to an introduction. Let's get it on the schedule. So we're always circling through with more information. We're relying on our network, like the local chambers, to help us introduce them to companies that we may not have first thought of, and then stepping through the process that way. And then we come to the end with endless possibilities, distribution, private labeling, job creation, increased revenue, imports, sales locations. There's so many opportunities here. And the whole process and everything that we are doing really goes back to those really strong relationships that we're cultivating and how that could grow into a number of opportunities. So the next thing we wanted to briefly show you is just kind of a rundown of a couple of companies we're working with right now. We have Alpego in Italy, and they are in the agri-tech world. We have Technomation in Germany, and they are in the recyclables and wood plastic compound world. Horseman, obviously in the equine industry, and they are in Sweden. And then Cucinato in Italy, and they are really available for a wide variety of things we found out in our discovery meetings, but they right now primarily focus on pasta and distribution and packaging of that. So let's get into the potential for you and the importance of having you on today. So when I was looking through with KCCE and Amy, we know that the aim of the grassroots network that you guys have with KCCE is to maximize the resource and strengthen the local chambers on policy matters, issues relating to growth, chamber operations, and economic development. And that's what we want this to be for you. So it serves as an increased connection and a way to open the dialogue between local chambers and the Kentucky Chamber. And we want to be connected. We want to hear from you. I want to hear if you have someone who is interested and to let you be that convener of conversation. It is providing an inside track to potential expansion in your communities. We know that you are the champions for your communities, and we want to see this be just another way for you to be expanding and growing those. And then you are serving as the connection to the Kentucky Chamber for interested companies. So it allows you to, and to my next point, to add an additional resource to your membership and to add some more value to what you're bringing to the companies and the organizations in your area. And you will act as that convener from them to us. And it is just another awesome benefit that you are able to provide them as members of your local chambers. So that is all I have on the slides. I wanted to leave plenty of time for us to open this up to questions and answers, because I have gotten so many good questions from local chambers so far who had interest and wanted to hear more. So I thought having Joshua and I both on the call, it would be a really good time. I will say that Amy and I talked about, when you are bringing Discover Kentucky up with your members and you're having potential conversations or you're getting questions from them, I do not mind to provide some dialogue, written verbiage, or even just some simple scenarios and verbiage of how you would handle those if you would like. I can get that to Amy and she can get it to you, but just to make sure that we have a unified message across the entire state, I can provide those resources. So Amy, with that, if you want to open it up to questions, we will try to give some answers.
Awesome. Thank you, Jess and Joshua. We really appreciate it. So far, I think there's no questions in the chat box, but I think it's a little bit of digestion of what this means. This is all pretty new to all of us, including folks at the Kentucky Chamber, and trying to understand how that process can benefit our local communities, the business community that the folks on this call are focused on a daily basis. Let's see, Dina's just got one. What is your process for companies looking at multiple counties when they start looking at Kentucky? So you'd be dealing with then more than one local government as well as one local chamber. So what's the process for looking at multiple counties?
Yeah, Joshua, do you want me to take this one? I can start out. So I will say that the process of Discover Kentucky is not site specific. So we are not to a point in conversation that they are really identifying where they would like to be geographically when they get here. So the process is more about creating those strong relationships between business leaders on the forefront. And then, they're talking more about site selection once we push them back over to Joshua and his team and they get further along in the process. But initially, that doesn't too much come into play, I will say, because we're focused more on the business leader and less on the geographic location as part of Discover Kentucky.
Yeah, well said. I have nothing to add to that. I mean, this is kind of the point, is it's geographically neutral in a way. And you explained it perfectly. These people are looking for partners, they're looking for distribution support, and we're there to just make some connections with companies that might, help them out and benefit themselves. And, as maybe an example, I think, Jessica, we wanted to kind of pick out one of these companies as sort of a case study. And we were maybe looking at Horseman, I believe, right?
Yeah. So we can talk about Horseman, absolutely. Amy, do you want me to stop sharing screen? I don't think there's.
I stopped sharing it.
Oh, no, perfect.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I can see it, but that's because it's on my computer. Yeah, so Horseman, we can just run through that really quick. This is an awesome company that we are working with. They have distribution partners. They have a really great global presence already. They are really sought after in the training and econ world. So for us, it was about connecting them with potential users of the product. It was about connecting them with potential buyers and resellers of the product. And then in the long run, thinking about maybe what textile or manufacturing options we had. So when we look through our vast membership, we identified 3 companies who we thought could be those potential partnerships. We actually connected Max to our econ specialist, Lori Mays, and had a great conversation there. And then now are working to schedule those business-to-business introductions. So, we weren't looking at where they were geographically, but more how they could partner moving forward. So, it's been, I definitely feel like a success that we're going to see there. But we have a manufacturer that we're going to be connecting them to, and then a couple of users, some vets who are really specific to that kind of treatment. So This is where we would be able to include you guys if you thought you had someone who could benefit from that. If you thought you had someone who would like to learn more, even, we're open to that as well. Do you want to add anything about?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I just want to add that, the hope, of course, with Horseman and a lot of these companies that come through is that they reach this critical mass where they really need to, establish their own manufacturing facility and make their own product and not, work through a contract manufacturer necessarily. And at that point, that's where we would, start presenting sites and going through that process as if they were kind of a new investor. But keeping that in mind, at that point, they will have been involved in Kentucky for so long that, it won't be a completely new process to them. And they might actually have some idea of where they think it would make sense for them to establish those kinds of presences.
Absolutely. And, from our side, it's more about helping them grow a network. So grow a network of relationships here that they can rely on once they're ready for that. Less about the specifics in communities per se, but more about a network within their industry that they can rely on when they are ready for that process.
So it's more about helping them find a partner than a community.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I do have another question. How are you all partnering with the international resources already in Kentucky? Like
Yep.
World Trade Center, KAD, CAM, export partners, that sort of thing.
So we have had many of those organizations reach out and offer their resources and, able to help us connect to anyone that we may need that help with. So we're definitely open to all resources. We have many, many partners here, a great relationship with the U.S. Chamber. So I feel like we could call on that if needed. And so I think it depends on the company itself, but we are really growing the network so that we're not missing no rocks unturned, right? We're thinking about all options.
Cool. Another question. Have you all thought about setting up a hub or a tech clearinghouse that you could communicate with interested community economic developers, that you could reach out to us and request assistance into our networks, meaning like local chambers? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think maybe and correct me if I'm wrong, Deanna, but so we do have a list of kind of people who want to be engaged, companies who want to be engaged, organizations who want to help facilitate those conversations. So we're so early on that we haven't created that yet. I will say that we have thought about how we're going to be spreading that information and connecting everyone. Just haven't wrapped our head around what that looks like just yet. But I do think that there will be some sort of central communication as far as reaching out when we have a need for a connection with a certain company within a certain community from our community leaders.
Okay. Any other questions? Those are good ones, and it's a little in depth, but it's good because we need to start understanding and know that that these things are in the process. We haven't solved all the problems or answered all the questions. This is the very beginning of it. Too. Josh wanted to make sure to mention that One East Kentucky and SOAR would be great partners, and of course we know that, Josh. Thank you so much. Yeah, most definitely. I know every area of the state wants to be the hub for all of this, but it's not a matter of picking an area of the state. It's a matter of figuring out what partners best with people that are interested in the Kentucky market. Is that true?
That's
Absolutely.
right.
And
Okay.
Another point I wanted to bring up quickly was, while those may be the 4 companies that we're working with currently, this will be a very fluid stream of connection. So, as Joshua and his team start to vet more companies and to push the marketing out and to have more interest, there may be a company who we need help with then that isn't now. So, that continued conversation between our networks. I know, Amy, you and I had talked about maybe touching back on this every so many months to continue developing what that looks like, but we are more than willing. We want to make sure that we're like I talked about early, making this a consistent resource to our members and our state and the companies within it. And we want to keep Kentucky top of mind as best as we can. And that's going to be through this continued relationship building and foster these, these connections as they grow.
That would be awesome, because I know, I mean, chambers are organic. We change with the times. We have to, that for our relevancy and our sustainability, we need to, this last year, if nothing else has taught us that we've got to listen to what our business community is asking us for, but we also need to bring new things to the table. And we appreciate all the efforts that you all can do to keep us enlightened and on the same page. Ways that local chambers can certainly help this network grow. That's our middle name, is networking. I tell our local chambers all the time, we are the last mile messaging and the most influential local leaders in the state. So this is the group of folks that I would appreciate you all keeping informed and in the loop, and folks that are on this call and folks that are watching this recording. We will do our best to continue to update as we move through this process, because it's an exciting time for Kentucky that we're doing this, that we're involved in this partnership. We want Joshua to know that when he calls on Kentucky to say, hey, what about this company or that company, that we've got answers almost immediately of people who want to help and partner and help those businesses grow in our market. So I appreciate that. I don't think we have other questions. I'll give it just a second. If you have any more questions for Joshua and Jessica, to put it in the chat box. But this is great. And like Jess said, she will give us some dialogue. That way we can get in our heads kind of what good answers are when folks start approaching you all one-on-one in your community about what this means for them and what this means for your community. Also, an email, if there's information that you would like to be able to send out to your membership, introducing what this means for them. We would certainly like to help you with that language if you need the help. So Jessica's going to get that information to me. We'll get it out to you at the latest, the 1st of next week. But in the meantime, if you have questions, you can contact me, or you can contact Jessica. It's a pretty simple email, if you know mine. Hers is jmoore with an E, Moore, at kychamber.com if you want to contact her directly, or you can always give me a shout and I can connect you too. Looks like people are just saying thanks, but we really appreciate it. Joshua, we really appreciate it. And how cool is technology that we're talking to our friend in Hamburg while we're sitting in snowy covered Kentucky. But we appreciate you guys being on the call. Thank you so much. Jessica, we appreciate you and the membership team for being so thinking outside the box and thinking of great ways that Kentucky business community can grow. And this is, I mean, we know the world is a small place, but this just made it super small. So we appreciate the opportunities for our local chambers to work with you all through this program. And Joshua, hopefully we'll see you soon. We'll get you on our next update as well and check in with you and the kids and the family and make sure you're doing okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you guys go. That was a quicker lunch and learn than we're used to having, but full of information. I know it might take you guys an afternoon to digest what we're doing. So I appreciate you guys joining us for our lunch and learn. We will have 2 more in March. That schedule will be announced next week of who we have speaking for our lunch and learns next week. Be sure to tune in. If you guys need anything, just make sure and reach out. Stay warm and stay safe, and we'll talk with y'all soon. Thanks, Jess. Thanks, Joshua.
Take care.